The production of this video was made possible by donors to the Orchestration Online Patreon initiative. Please consider adding your support to the creation of free educational internet resources by visiting our Patreon page linked below.
When do I need to copyright my music? How can I protect it?
No one but you can really answer that, but there are some things to avoid. On the one hand, a sense of overprotectiveness can seem comical and amateurish, such as a blaring verbal announcement at the start of every piece in your YouTube showreel. That won't interest anyone serious if they happen to watch your uploads. On the other hand, spreading your unprotected music far and wide across the internet may not be the key to success unless you've got a very big following and are finding alternate ways to monetize your CC license material. The first thing you have to understand, copyright law was not developed to protect the fragile egos of creators. It's not about giving you complete control over every word out of your mouth, nor every good idea you've ever had. Communication may be attributable, but it's public domain because you are part of the public. What's more, if you're asking the above questions, then you're looking ahead at the professional arc of your life in music. You're at the stage where getting a Library of Congress copyright certificate in the mail has a lot of powerful emotional meaning. You're not at the other end where you can't remember where you stored all of them and you keep putting off filing the latest batch. When is the exact time to file a copyright? When there's a real chance that what you create will have a lasting monetary benefit to you and your family. If your work is likely to be performed, published, distributed, and broadcast, then you have the legal right to license it and collect royalties. You get to define what likely means in the above sentence, whether it means that you know your work is entering that monetary stream, or whether you just really believe in it. In most countries, the act of creation automatically grants a copyright to the creator, without the need for copyright certificates. But this still doesn't automatically grant protection. Confirmation of authorship may be required in any dispute, some sort of trail that's easily followed. Lodging a work with a musical archive, like Sounds here in New Zealand, self-publishing, or yes, even uploading a work for public consumption, are all ways of establishing your ownership. Then there are also moral rights, which give you a voice in the disposition of a work, even if you've relinquished your ownership, as in a work for hire. These aren't fully recognized under US law, but aspects are incorporated into related statutes. I'm not a copyright attorney, and I'm not giving anyone legal advice. Consider the content of this video merely as the perspective of one working composer, and decide for yourself how thoroughly you need to protect your works. Check out some of the resources I've linked below, and consider joining a performing rights organization such as ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, APRA, PRS, or APO. They'll help you to collect royalties, especially for things like radio and television broadcasts. Hey there, this is your orchestration tutor Thomas Goss, ringing in the new year of 2019 with another orchestration question from my book, 100 Orchestration Tips. When I originally published the text for the tip that I just presented to you, I was very aware that there was a lot of advice that I had to leave out, or it would take over the whole book. So here are a few more words about copyright as it relates to composers, and especially orchestrators. I just mentioned performing rights organizations, or PROs, such as ASCAP or BMI. These groups don't just collect royalties, but see it as their mission to help composers get more representation as a profession. My PRO is ASCAP, and they have a special concert music division that looks after members who compose in that genre. One of their great successes is the ASCAP Plus Awards program, in which members can receive money from ASCAP in recognition of the many smaller, less professional concerts in which their works are performed. If your music is being performed at little concerts all over the world, this can add up to a pretty good source of income, provided that you can verify all those concerts. Thus far in this video, I've mainly focused on the monetary aspects of copyright, because that is ultimately the bottom line. But there are other valuable aspects to copyright, one of which is control over your intellectual property and its meaning. This gives you the right to refuse to have your work used in ways that you might find repugnant, such as in an awful movie or in support of a political rally. Remember that your music appearing in that way may also imply your personal consent for the low quality of workmanship of that awful movie, or the horrible opinions of those at that rally. The worst outcome is for your audience to lose touch with your intentions as a creator, and instead associate your music with an advertising jingle for the rest of your life. Unless you have no problem with that. But if you do, you can protect yourself. For me, as a creator of educational content, it helps to have control over shaping an overall educational agenda in which I take personal responsibility for the content, and I avoid diluting or sidetracking my training. Without any protection, I would lose that ability, beyond any question of profiting from the years of work that I'm putting into it. Be aware that these benefits come at a price. If you own a copyright, you may have to fight to protect it, even if you are sharing with a CC license. What will you do if someone takes your CC material and profits from it by selling illicit copies? There are many horror stories out there, such as the underground cartoonist R.Crumb's battles over his meme, Keep On Truckin', which was made into t-shirts, belt buckles, and other merchandise without his permission. When he sued to protect it, his claim was denied, and then on top of that, he was charged taxes by the IRS on royalties they assumed he'd earned. This is all pretty unlikely with concert music, but you never know, and things can get confusing when we get into the realm of film and commercial music, so watch out. Here's a quick checklist of brief answers to questions that get asked frequently in the Orchestration Online community. Can you file a copyright on an arrangement of an already copyrighted work? Yes, you can, but if you've done it without the consent or knowledge of the original copyright holder, then you may never collect anything on it. Usually, it's you who will be hired by the copyright holder or an orchestra manager to make such an arrangement, and the arrangement you create will be a work for hire, not necessarily your property to claim. If you do get hired to orchestrate music, then who sorts the permissions? That is usually the job of the person hiring you. If you're unsure about this, then put it in your contract with them. It's not your job to deal with permissions, especially in a work-for-hire situation. Should you sign over your rights to your music in an unpaid situation? Never. If someone is hiring you to work for them, that should result in monetary compensation. Exposure doesn't cut it. If they want you to compose or arrange for them for no money, which I don't recommend, but it still happens, then you should at least retain your rights. Giving up your rights and not getting paid is beneath your humanity, not to mention dignity. Are you required to ask permission to make your own arrangement of copyrighted music and share it on social media? Technically, yes, though almost nobody ever does this. One could make an argument for fair use, especially if your video or audio is being shared, so that you can get educational feedback. You almost never hear of a YouTube channel or video being shut down over this, because most companies don't see it as worth the effort. But if there's a perception that you don't respect the original composer, and you're using their music to profit or publicize yourself in a significant way, then you're flirting with disaster. All it takes is for money to change hands once, or even just a small public performance of your arrangement, and welcome to lawyer land. Once again, I'm not recommending any course of action or granting anyone permission to do anything, but just observing what I see on the internet. Anyway, there are many more aspects to copyright, but I mainly just want composers in our community to be aware of some basics. This isn't a big pro-copyright video, any more than I would make a big pro-driver's license video if this were a channel about learning to drive a car. It's just a part of the way the real world works if you're a professional, and you should know how to deal with it. So, use it if you need it, and be careful out there, okay?